So in this video, I'll go over a couple of features of using GitHub Copilot within VS Code. GitHub Copilot, as you may already know, is a coding assistant that uses AI, artificial intelligence, to help us with code completions and just having conversations about the code, even just understanding code that's already been written. So to get started with GitHub Copilot, you'll need to create an account and add Copilot to your GitHub account. And the link to cover some of that and some of the same concepts in this video will be in the description. Just a couple of points on that. You want to go to your extensions menu like Control Shift X or Command Shift X. That'll open up actually this icon right here. You can get there with the shortcut keys, see there. And if you search for Copilot, you'll want the GitHub Copilot and the chat extension. And as always, be careful about installing all this random stuff. You'll just clutter up your system and things will get in the way. Really, all you need are these two. The web search for Copilot, well, like it says, allows it to do web searches, so it kind of helps with some of the conversation. So just look for these official check marks from GitHub and Microsoft, and you'll be in a good spot here. You should just need those things. Once you've gotten those installed in VS Code, you do need to make sure that you're signed in to GitHub. And so there'll be a setting down here like settings sync, and there'll be signing in for GitHub Copilot. To make sure that you are all set up, look down here in the bottom right for the little Copilot icon. It should have stuff like this. Now, we're not going to go into all the settings. We can just stick with the defaults at the moment, but maybe in a future video we can cover some other specific settings. You can throw some questions in the comments. All right, so without further ado, once you've gotten that set up, you can come in here and let's say we have this function written here. I can highlight it. I can hit Command I, and that's going to open up an inline chat. Again, there's a lot of tweaks and settings, but the defaults work pretty well. Most likely you'll have an option for GPT-4.1, so you'll want to use that one. There's also GPT-5 Mini and some other engines. I primarily just use 4.1 for the most part, and then I'll use 5 Mini when I've just got a larger problem to solve. All right, so we'll stick with this one, and we can just do something. We can hit a slash here, and you can do things like if there's a bug in this code. Actually, let's just create a bug if we can. What if I just add an S here so courses is not defined? Let me hit escape to get out of that, and then I'll just highlight this, and we'll see if we can fix it. So Command I, and I'll just say slash fix. And it kind of just gives a suggestion, but you can just say slash fix and should be smart enough to solve this one. And so there it goes. It fixed the bug, and it gave, well, it didn't really give much explanation, but that one was a pretty straightforward bug. Then we can choose to either keep or not, or we can continue the conversation, but I'll just click keep because I want to keep that change. That makes sense. Now, this is not magic. You still need to know what's going on and make sure that you verify all of the things that Copilot does. Please don't get too caught up in this thing called vibe coding where you just kind of let AI generate a bunch of slop and maybe hopefully it works, but you really don't have any internal confidence on that. But that's a whole different matter. All right, so there's a quick example of how to use it. We can also highlight this. We can say Command I, and you can add like documentation, but let's just do something. Let's just say, explain this code to me. Now, things get a little tight in this view. There may be some settings to customize it, but yeah, this isn't bad. It gives you step by step and a summary. So you hit close here. You can also like scroll down to the top, to the bottom, scroll down to the top. Silliness. All right, so I can hit Command I in line here, and I can say, I don't even know, like let's say, add a function to create a new student. I think I already have a function for that, but let's just put something in here. Sure, yeah, let's see. So this wrote this with an arrow syntax. We don't really, well, this is not, see, this isn't quite how I would write it. It's pretty close, but it's not, I would do this a little differently. And that's what I find most of the time, depending on your code quality standards and things. It's still better than starting off with a blank screen, but I very rarely just accept what it takes. I'll always go in here and tweak a few things, but that's not important for this video. So Command I, once you've got the extension, once you've gotten set up here, signed into GitHub, and just verify that it's working here, you can use Command I. Now you can also hit Command Shift I, and you can have longer conversations out here. I'm going to hit the plus sign for a new conversation. And man, there's even more stuff to talk about, like generating custom instructions, but we're going to not worry about that here. There's a couple of different modes. Agent mode, I think, is the default, and it's kind of a nice balance between just having a conversation and actually changing stuff in your code. Edit is where you actually just want it to go in and directly edit your code, and ask is like conversation only. I've been using ask quite a bit just because I don't necessarily like it just going in there and making changes. I'd rather have it explain things to me, and then from there I'll may switch to agent mode and say, okay, go ahead and implement those changes. Or I might just copy some stuff here and do it myself. So, but we can stick with agent mode. There's a few different engines depending on your setup and your account. I usually just stick with the free ones. These are called premium ones, and you may or may not have access to those. But usually 4.1 is smart enough for a lot of beginner level code, especially if you're just learning JavaScript. So I'll just say, let's see, if we hit slash here, you get a whole bunch of other options. You can have it set up tests. You can have it explain stuff from the terminal if you're using the terminal from VS Code. I don't really do that, so I'll just say explain, and it should go into this entire workspace, meaning this project, and explain it to you. So I don't know, let's just let that run. And what you can also do is add additional context. So right now, it is focused on using the utils file, but since I have it as at workspace, it'll probably look at everything as necessary. But yeah, if you wanted to, you can go in here and you could specifically drag and drop additional files that you want to make sure it pays like special attention to. So we'll just do that. And see, when you click this setting, it says, oh, do you want me to focus on a specific instance? So actually, it's a little misleading because I just said to go to the workspace. So why don't I just say, actually, I hit escape, and I'm not sure where. Oh, use one reference. Oh, it just used this one here. So I guess it's just using like the workspace settings to be TBH. I'm not actually sure what that did. My interpretation was that it would do the whole workspace. If you have a better idea on that, add it to the comments. Nevertheless, you get the gist of this. I can say, I can go in here and like grab the test file, and I can say, well, I want you to look at this test file, and we'll just say, what are these tests? And then it'll go on and on. Actually, yeah, the test file is this. It was just a simple test for checking addition, whatever. So anyway, the key points are you got to get the GitHub Copilot extension. You got to get set up with Copilot with GitHub. You'll want to double check your extensions, make sure you're signed in. And from there, it's really just Command I and Command Shift I. So there's a lot more we could go into, but that's enough to just get started. And just when you ask specific questions, you can keep it pretty short and just use things like explain this to me or whatever, or you can get a little bit more specific. But yeah, if you want some more additional information about how I use it personally or anything, you can throw a question in the comments.